So let's keep it real. How many of y'all would have kept your cool if your family member was killed by the police? Because the Massey family just showed us what real strength looks like in court, and it's all about to change the game. So picture this. It's July 6, 2024, and Sonya Massey's just at home with her family. Everything seems normal, right? But then she hears something outside and gets scared. So she calls 911 thinking they'll help her out. Little did she know that that call was going to turn her whole world upside down. Next thing you know, Deputy Sean Grayson rolls up into the Massey house, and there was some major tension in the air. Sonya was probably thinking that she was about to be safe, but no, she was very wrong. Now, I can't tell you every single detail that went down, but trust me when I say you what happens next will shock you to your core. What happened in the next few minutes changed the Massey family's life forever. So in that clip, the courtroom was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Everyone was just holding their breath, waiting for that body cam footage to start rolling. The Massey family was sitting there looking like they were about to face their worst nightmare. And let me tell you, they did. The video starts to play, and at first it's just Deputy Grayson coming to the Massey house. But then things went from 0 to 100. Sonya's there probably thinking she's about to get help, but instead Grayson starts yelling at her like she's the criminal. But get this, Grayson straight up threatens Sonya saying, "Better effing not or I swear to God I'll effing shoot you in your face." Can you believe that? A police officer, someone who's sworn to protect and serve the people, talking like that to a scared older woman who called for help. In the courtroom, the Massey family is losing it. Sonya's mom is shaking and her dad looks like he's about to jump out of his seat. And Sonya's kids, they're crying. It's heartbreaking to watch, but it gets worse. In the body cam, you can see Sonya's apologizing, trying to duck for cover. She's terrified, and then just like that, it's fired. Grayson shoots her 3 times. One of those bullets hits her right in the head, and it's brutal. It's fast, and it's shocking as hell. But here's the kicker. The thing that really broke everyone down after he shoots Sonya Grayson, he doesn't even try to help her. He just stands there and says, "Nah, she's done. You can go get it, but that's a headshot." Like he's talking about a video game or something. Like it wasn't a real person that he just unalived. The Massey family were beyond devastated. They're angry, they're hurting, and they're demanding answers. How could this happen? How could someone call for help and end up Now you might be thinking, but what if they didn't have this footage? Well, Ben Crump, the famous civil rights lawyer, has got something to say about that. He said, if it were not for the body cam footage, we would not have known that this occurred. And that's the God's honest truth. Because without this video, who knows what story we would have been fed. This footage is not just changing things for the Massey family, it's blowing the lid off of this whole case. People are very, very mad. They're in the streets demanding for justice, and even the big shots in the White House are talking about it. And let me tell you, this isn't just about Sonya Massey anymore. It's about every black person who's ever been afraid to call the police for help. It's about every cop who thinks that they can do whatever they want and get away with it. It's about a whole system that needs to change. But you better hold on to your seats, because we're about to dive deep into Deputy Sean Grayson's past. And let me tell you, it's messier than a pig in mud, pun intended. Now you thought the body cam footage was bad. Well, this guy's history is gonna make your jaw hit the floor. Well, let's start with the fact that Grayson has hopped around jobs more than a frog on a sidewalk. We're talking about 6 different law enforcement agencies in just 4 years. 6. Most folks can't even change their hairstyle that many times in 4 years. But this guy was swapping badges like they were going out of style. Now you might be thinking, maybe he was just trying to find the right fit. But listen, this isn't about finding the right fit. This is a man who could not keep a job to save his life. And why couldn't he keep a job? Well, buckle up, because we're about to dive into that tea. First off, Grayson got kicked out of the U.S. Army, and we're not talking about a little slap on the wrist here. No, he got discharged for what they called misconduct. Now, the Army doesn't just frivolously throw people out. This had to be some serious stuff. But there's more. Grayson didn't just have 1 DUI, he had 2. 2 DUIs, y'all. In 2015 and in 2016. This man decided that drinking and driving was his new hobby. And you know what's even crazier? These DUIs were known before he got hired as a deputy. Like, who's doing the hiring? Are there any background checks? Can't they see these records? Oh, well, let's not forget that at the time he was at the Kincaid Police Department, they showed him to the door because he refused to live within the required radius. I mean, come on. You can't even follow a simple rule about where you're supposed to live? Now here's where things get very interesting. After all this mess, after bouncing around like a pinball and collecting DUIs, guess what else happened? The Sangamon County Sheriff's Office decided, hey, Hey, this seems like a stand-up guy. Let's give him a badge and making this stuff up. The same man who couldn't keep a job, got kicked out of the army, who got caught drunk driving twice, was given the power to patrol our streets with a to make life or death decisions. And you know what? It gets worse. At one of his previous jobs, Grayson was told to take high-stress decision-making classes because he couldn't follow commands during a vehicle pursuit. So they knew this man had issues making decisions under pressure, and they still put him on the streets. The Massey family, they're in shock. And can you blame them? James Wilburn, Sonya's father, said this: "This man, Grayson, should have never had a badge, and he should have never had a..." Mr. Wilburn has that exactly right. But let's talk about what this means for all of us. How in the world did someone with Grayson's record end up as a deputy? Who's checking these applications? Who's doing the background checks? Are they just handing out badges at the dollar store now? This is not just about Grayson. This is about a whole system that is broken. And if someone like Grayson can slip through the cracks, how many other bad police officers are out here wearing badges? And y'all, the Massey family has been through hell and back, but they aren't about to let Sonya's death be for nothing. They've gone from crying their eyes out to standing tall and demanding justice. It's like they found the strength that they didn't even know they had. Remember how they were falling apart watching the dash cam footage? Well, now they're out here making noise and shaking things up. They've been holding rallies, speaking to the press, and making sure everyone knows Sonya Massey's name. It's like they flipped the switch from to warriors. And at one of their protests, Sonya's father, James Wilburn, stood up there with fire in his eyes and demanded justice. He wasn't just asking. And the crowd, they were right there with them, chanting Sonya's name like a battle cry. Now you might be wondering how the Massey family is keeping it together through all this. Well, they're smart. They know that they need help to deal with all this trauma, so they set up a GoFundMe. But get this, it's not just for lawyer fees or anything like that. It's for mental health counseling. They're trying to raise $100,000 to make sure everyone in the family can get the help that they need to process this nightmare. And let me tell you, they're needed. Sonya's son Malachi has been hit so hard. He said, "I really don't have words. I feel sick." Can you imagine losing your mother like this and then having to watch it on video and the world to see it? It's enough to break anyone. But here's the thing that's really got people talking. The Masseys found out what they thought happened to Sonya wasn't the whole truth. At first, they thought some random person broke in and killed her, but finding out that it was actually a cop, it hit them like a ton of bricks. They're fighting for every black person who has ever been afraid to call the police. They're fighting for transparency, for accountability, and for change, and they're not backing down. You should have seen them at that rally with Ben Crump and Reverend Al Sharpton. They were standing there shoulder to shoulder, looking like they were ready to take on the world. And Sonya's sister was there holding up a picture of Sonya, reminding everyone what this fight is really about. People are listening. The streets are talking and they're saying Sonya Massey's name. From the neighborhood to the White House, folks are paying attention, and it's like Sonya's story has lit a fire under people, and that fire is spreading. But don't think for a second that this is easy for the Masseys. Every day has been a struggle. Every time they see Sonya's picture, every time they hear her name in the news, it's like losing her all over again. But they keep fighting, they keep pushing, because they know Sonya deserves justice. And the streets are on fire. After that shocking footage came out, people aren't just sitting at home shaking their heads. No, they're out here making some noise for Sonya Massey. We're talking protests so big, you can see them from space, literally. In Chicago, thousands of folks filled up the streets, holding up signs that'll make your heart hurt. Justice for Sonya and Black Lives Matter everywhere you look. But it's not just words on cardboard. There are people that are mad as hell, and they're letting everyone know it. You should have seen this one lady in front of the crowd that was holding up a picture of Sonya, big as day, with "Say Her Name" written underneath. And let me tell you, people were saying her name. They were chanting, "Sonya Massey," so loud. I bet they could hear it all through the state of Washington. Because President Biden came out and said that he was heartbroken over what happened to Sonya. He said, "When we call for help, all of us as Americans, regardless of who we are, where we live, should be able to do so without fearing for our lives." And that is the God's honest truth. And Vice President Harris, she wasn't playing either. Kamala straight up said Sonya Massey deserved to be safe. And after she called the police for help, she was tragically in her own home at the hands of a responding officer sworn to protect and serve. Tell him, Mamala. But it isn't just talk coming out of the White House. People are pushing hard for the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act. You know, the one that's supposed to stop cops from acting like they're above the law. Folks are saying that if that bill had passed before, maybe signed their records. You know the crowd went wild. People are tired of not knowing who's really behind the badge and gun. And it isn't just about Sonya anymore. Her story's got people talking about all the other black people who've been hurt or killed by the police. It's like Sonya Massey's name has become a battle cry for change. And you know what's really got people heated? The fact that Deputy Grayson, the one who shot Sonya, had all these problems in his past. People are saying, how the heck did this dude even get a badge? It's making everyone look real hard at how the police departments hire folks. And this is another thing that's got people shook. Everyone's realizing that what happened to Sonya could have happened to any of us. And that's why you're seeing all kinds of people at these protests. You got black, white, young, old, rich, and poor. It's like Sonya's story has brought everyone together. I know y'all are probably wondering what happens next, right? Well, Grayson's facing some serious charges. We're talking 3 counts of first-degree murder, aggravated battery with a firearm, and official misconduct. That's a whole lot of trouble, and if he's found guilty, he's looking at spending the rest of his life behind bars. Now, the prosecution is not playing around either. They're coming in hot, saying Grayson had no reason to use deadly force on Sonya Massey. They're painting a picture of a trigger-happy cop who shot first and asked questions later. The prosecutor, John Milheiser, he stood up there and said, a review of the Illinois State Police investigation, including the body-worn camera footage, does not support a finding that Deputy Sean Grayson was justified in his use of deadly force. And you could hear a pin drop when he said that. But Grayson's defense team, well, they're not about to roll over. They're arguing that Grayson felt threatened and acted in self-defense. They're trying to say that in the heat of the moment, with all the adrenaline pumping, Grayson made a split-second decision to protect himself. The courtroom's like a circus, with both sides bringing out their big guns. The prosecution's got expert witnesses talking about proper police procedures, saying Grayson had other options. They're saying he could have used his taser gun instead of his real gun, or he could have tried to de-escalate the situation. Now, you guys may be thinking that this is an open and shut case, but let me tell you, juries can be unpredictable. And with all this back and forth, it's hard to say which way this thing's gonna go. But guys, the Massey family has been through a lot, from crying out in public to speaking out on national TV.